7 years. I want to start with that number because I think it changes what I'm about to say. I am not a woman who moved here 6 months ago and is still in the honeymoon phase, still discovering things, still comparing everything to America with the freshness of someone who just arrived. I am not someone who spent 3 weeks on a scouting trip and came back with strong opinions. I am a woman who has been living in this country, in a real neighborhood, in a real house, through real typhoons and real brownouts and a real pandemic and the real texture of 7 years of ordinary days, and who has watched more Americans arrive here than she can count, and who has watched the ones who thrive and the ones who don't, and who has developed, through that watching, some very specific opinions about what makes the difference. My name is Carolyn. I am 71 years old. I moved to Dumaguete City in the Philippines in the spring of 2018, which means I have now been here longer than some of my neighbors' children have been in high school. I know which vendors at the palenque have the freshest fish on which days. I know which streets flood first when the rain comes hard. I know which months the mangoes are extraordinary and which months you wait. I know the names of the geckos, or rather, I know the name I have given the one who lives above my kitchen window, which is Gerald, and who has been there for 4 years and shows no intention of leaving. What I also know, after 7 years, is that there is a version of this life that is being sold to Americans, in videos, in forums, in enthusiastic accounts from people who have been here 18 months. That is true in some ways and incomplete in ways that matter. And incompleteness in information of this significance is its own kind of problem. So this is what I want to spend the next 35 minutes doing. Not selling you the Philippines, not warning you away from it, telling you what 7 years of actual living here has taught me, the things that took me years to understand, and that I wish someone had put in front of me in a single clear place before I came. Some of it will confirm what you've heard. Some of it will complicate it. All of it is true. The first thing every American must know is the thing I hear least often discussed honestly, which is the difference between visiting the Philippines and living in it. I have watched this happen many times. A woman arrives. She spends 2 weeks in Dumaguete or Cebu or Iloilo. The warmth of the people is real and immediate. The food is extraordinary. The cost of a meal at a local carinderia is genuinely astonishing to someone coming from American prices. The boulevard in the evening is everything the videos promised. She goes home. She researches. She moves. And then, approximately 6 weeks in, she hits the wall. The wall is not the heat, though the heat is real. The wall is not the language barrier, though that is also real. The wall is the accumulated weight of 100 small things that are not difficult individually, and that together constitute a new operating system that your brain has to learn from scratch. How to pay your electricity bill, which is not automatic here, and involves a specific process and a specific window and a specific office. How to read the visa extension requirements, which change and which are interpreted differently by different officers on different days. How to negotiate the palenque price as a foreigner without either paying double or giving offense. How to communicate with a landlord about a maintenance issue in a culture where direct confrontation is avoided and where yes sometimes means yes and sometimes means I heard you and sometimes means I will try to find a way to say no that doesn't make you feel bad. None of these things are insurmountable. All of them require time and patience and a tolerance for ambiguity that American culture, which runs on efficiency and directness and the reliable application of stated rules, does not particularly cultivate. The women I have watched thrive here in 7 years are not the ones who adapted fastest. They are the ones who arrived with the lowest expectation of speed, who decided before they got off the plane that the first year was a learning year and not a judging year, who did not arrive with a finished picture of what this was going to be, and who remained genuinely curious when it turned out to be different from that picture. The women I have watched leave, sometimes after 6 months, sometimes after a year, sometimes after 2, are almost always the ones who arrived with a complete version of the life they were building and who encountered the Philippines as a series of obstacles to that vision, rather than as a place with its own logic that rewarded learning. This country is not an obstacle course. It is a different operating system. Learn the operating system and you will be fine. Expect it to run your software and you will be miserable. The second thing every American must know is about the visa situation. And I am going to be more specific about this than most people are, because I have watched it cause real problems for people who were not prepared. Americans can enter the Philippines visa-free and stay for 30 days, extendable. The extensions happen at the Bureau of Immigration. You can extend multiple times, and most people do this for the first year or sometimes longer. The process works. It is slow, it is occasionally inconsistent, it requires patience, and sometimes the willingness to return on a different day, because the queue was too long, or the system was down, or the requirements have been interpreted differently than they were last month. This is real. Plan for it. Hire a local visa agent to handle it for you. This is not optional advice. This is the advice I give every person who asks me how to make the administrative side of this life manageable, and the cost of a visa agent is among the best money you will spend. The long-term option is the SRRV, the Special Resident Retirees Visa, which is issued by the Philippine Retirement Authority and which provides long-term residency for qualifying retirees. To qualify, you must be at least 35 years old. Nearly everyone reading this qualifies on that front, and you must deposit a specified amount into an accredited Philippine bank. The deposit amount varies by age and whether you have a pension. For someone over 55 with a pension, the deposit required is $10,000. For someone over 55 without a pension, it is $20,000. This money remains yours. It is a deposit, not a fee. But it must stay in that account as long as you hold the SRRV, and it earns modest interest while it sits there. I got my SRRV in my second year. The process took approximately 4 months, required more paperwork than I had previously assembled in my entire adult life, and was managed entirely by the visa agent I mentioned, whose fee I would have paid twice for the peace of mind alone. Having the SRRV means I do not stand in the Bureau of Immigration queue. It means I do not think about my right to be here every 30 to 60 days. It means I can leave and return without the anxiety of whether my extension was properly processed. It means this is, on paper and in law, where I live. I recommend it without reservation to anyone who has decided to stay. The third thing every American must know is about healthcare. And I am going to give you 7 years of direct experience rather than the theoretical version. My first year here, I had what I would describe as the American's healthcare anxiety. I worried about what would happen if something went wrong. I had a list of hospitals. I had the numbers of medical evacuation services. I had calculated the distance to the best hospitals in Cebu. I was, in the language of my former career as a risk manager, heavily hedged. By year 3, my relationship with healthcare here had become what I think is the correct relationship, which is well-managed and appropriately confident. Here is what I have learned through 7 years of actually using the healthcare system. Routine and preventive care in Dumaguete is excellent, affordable, and conducted with a thoroughness and a personalism that I had not experienced in American medicine in at least 20 years. My doctor, Dr. Rosario, has been managing my care for 6 years. She knows my history the way a doctor knows a patient's history when she has been paying attention for 6 years, not reading from a file she opened 4 minutes before I walked in. My quarterly checkup costs $15. My annual comprehensive blood work costs $42. These are not estimates. These are what I paid last time and the time before that. For moderate urgency, the kind of thing that in America would be an urgent care visit, Dumaguete has private clinics that will see you the same day, often within the hour, for fees that require you to read the bill twice to confirm the decimal point is in the right place. For serious emergencies, cardiac, neurological, major surgical. You need a plan that extends beyond Dumagete. My plan, which I have had in writing since my second year and which I review annually, goes like this. Stabilization at the best private hospital in Dumagete, which is capable and equipped for this. Transfer to Cebu City if the situation requires specialist care, which is 3 hours by bus or 40 minutes by plane. Transfer to Manila if it requires the highest level of Philippine care. Medical evacuation to the United States if it is something that requires American-level intervention. I have medical evacuation insurance. I have had it every year since I arrived. It costs approximately $190 a year at my age and my health profile. I have not needed it. I keep it current the way I keep my smoke detector batteries current, not because I expect the worst, but because the cost of not having it, if I need it, is not a cost I am willing to bear. Medicare does not cover you outside the United States. This is not fine print. This is the single most important financial fact about American retirement abroad, and I want to say it clearly and with emphasis, because I have met women here who did not fully understand it before they arrived, and who were constructing their risk plans around an assumption that was incorrect. Medicare does not cover you here. Plan accordingly. Have the evacuation insurance. Have savings set aside for medical contingency. Know your plan and write it down and make sure someone you trust has a copy. The fourth thing every American must know is about money, and I want to go beyond the monthly budget breakdown that every Philippines retirement video provides, because after 7 years, I have things to say that go deeper than the rent numbers. The rent numbers are real. My house, a 3-bedroom concrete house in a residential neighborhood of Dumaguete with a garden and a covered terrace, and a view from the second floor that includes a strip of the Bohol Strait, costs 15,000 pesos a month. That is $265. These numbers are real and they are the foundation of everything else. But here is what I want to tell you about money that the rent numbers don't cover. The exchange rate moves. In 7 years, I have watched the peso-dollar rate shift in both directions, and I have watched it affect my effective purchasing power by as much as 15% in a single year. This is not a crisis. I am still living well, and the fundamentals of the cost differential remain intact. But if you are budgeting very tightly, exchange rate movement can matter, and you should understand that your monthly budget in dollar terms is not fixed, even if your peso expenses are consistent. The foreigner price is real, and it is not going away. After 7 years, I pay the local price at the market, at the carinderia, at the repair shop, at nearly every regular transaction in my life. This took approximately 2 years of consistent presence and relationship building to achieve, and it was worth every month of the process. But if you arrive and expect to pay local prices immediately, you will be disappointed. The foreigner markup is not malicious. It is the rational behavior of a vendor who does not yet know whether you are a tourist who is here for a week or a resident who will be buying fish from her table for the next 7 years. Become the second kind of person, and you will be treated accordingly. ATMs and banking. I use Charles Schwab's international checking account, which reimburses all ATM fees worldwide, which I recommend to every American, considering this move as the single most useful financial tool available to us abroad. I make 2 larger withdrawals per month rather than many small ones. I keep 3 months of expenses in a Philippine bank account in pesos as a local cushion. I keep my American savings in a high-yield account that I do not touch, except for genuine emergencies. This system has worked for 7 years without meaningful complication. Inflation here is real. The Philippines is not a static cost environment, and anyone who tells you what things cost here with total confidence is telling you what things cost when they last checked, which may not be now. My expenses have increased over 7 years. Not dramatically, the fundamental cost of living advantage over America remains overwhelming, but measurably. Budget with room. Do not build a life that requires the absolute minimum to work. The fifth thing every American must know is about community, because I think it is the most underestimated factor in whether a person thrives here or doesn't, and because it is the area where I see the most preventable mistakes. The expat community in a city like Dumaguete is real, active, and useful. There are regular gatherings, informal networks, people who have been here longer than you and who know things you need to know. I was part of this community in my first year, and I am glad I was. It provided orientation and connection during the period when I was most in need of both. I am also going to tell you something that I have only come to understand in year 4 or 5, which is that the expat community can become, if you are not careful, a container that prevents you from living where you actually are. I have known women here for 7 years who interact almost exclusively with other Americans and Europeans, who eat at the restaurants that cater to foreigners, who discuss the Philippines primarily in terms of its inconveniences and how it compares unfavorably to home, who have been here for years and know almost no Filipinos by name. These women are not unhappy exactly. They are comfortable. They are also, in my assessment, missing the thing that makes this place singular. The thing that makes this place singular is the Filipino people. Not as a backdrop, not as a service industry, as neighbors and friends and market vendors and doctors and the woman who calls you ate and the child who reads to you on Monday mornings. You cannot access that thing from inside an expat bubble. The bubble is warm and familiar, and it will prevent you from being genuinely cold, and it will also prevent you from being genuinely here. What I recommend, based on 7 years of watching this play out, use the expat community for orientation and logistics and practical knowledge. Then step outside it. Go to the market where the locals go. Eat where the locals eat. Learn enough Cebuano or Tagalog to signal that you are trying, which is worth more than fluency in terms of the relationships it opens. Say the words wrong and let people correct you and laugh about it together. Become a regular somewhere and stay regular. The belonging that makes this life extraordinary is not available for purchase. It is available for showing up consistently and genuinely for long enough that the place starts to recognize you. It took me about 18 months to feel genuinely inside this city rather than visiting it indefinitely. The 18 months were worth every day. The sixth thing every American must know is about the things you will miss, because the list is real and not addressing it honestly is a disservice. After 7 years, I still miss autumn. The specific quality of October light in the American Northeast, the smell of leaves, the feeling of cool air that has weight to it. The Philippines has seasons, wet and dry, each with their own qualities, but it does not have autumn, and there is a part of me that will miss autumn until I die, and I have made my peace with that. I miss certain foods, real pastrami, a proper everything bagel, good Mexican food, which does not exist here in any form that resembles the thing. New York cheesecake, these are specific, and they are real, and I address them by having a short list of things I bring back in my suitcase when I visit the United States, which I do approximately every 18 months. I miss the infrastructure certainty. After 7 years, I have fully adapted to brownouts and internet outages and the road that floods every heavy rain and the jeepney schedule that is a suggestion rather than a timetable. But I remember what it felt like when these things were reliable, and I will not pretend I don't sometimes wish for that reliability, particularly when the internet goes out in the middle of a video call with my daughter. I miss my daughter. I miss my grandchildren. I miss them in the sustained, daily, accumulated way that does not diminish with time, and that I have learned to carry as a permanent companion rather than a problem to be solved. The video calls are real. The visits are real. My daughter has been here 3 times in 7 years, and the visits are among the best weeks of any of those years. And the distance is real, and the missing is real, and I am telling you this plainly because I think women considering this move deserve to know that the missing does not go away, that you build a life that is big enough to hold it, and that building that life is worth doing even with the missing inside it. The 7th thing, and the last, is the thing I have thought about more than anything else in 7 years, and the thing I most want to leave you with. People ask me sometimes whether I think they should come here, whether the Philippines is right for them, whether they would be happy here. And I have learned, after 7 years of watching people arrive and watching them either root or leave, that there is one question that predicts the answer better than any other. Not, can you afford it? The math almost always works. Not, will you be safe? You will. Not, will you miss things? You will. The question is, are you moving toward something or away from something? The people who come here because America has failed them financially, because the cost of housing has priced them out, because the system did not produce the retirement it was supposed to produce, those people often do very well here, because they arrive with a genuine need that this place genuinely meets, and they bring with them the particular motivation of someone who is solving a real problem. The people who come here running from something, from loneliness that has a cause they haven't addressed, from a relationship they've ended but not processed, from a self they hope geography will change, those people tend to find that what they were running from comes with them on the plane. The Philippines is not therapy. It is a place. It will not fix what was broken before you arrived. It will, however, provide a genuinely extraordinary life for someone who is ready to live it. I came here because I was a 64-year-old retired risk manager whose husband had died 2 years before and whose retirement income worked in the Philippines in a way it didn't quite work in Portland, Oregon, and who was ready, genuinely ready, to be somewhere completely new. I was moving toward a different kind of life, not away from a version of myself I wanted to escape. That readiness was the thing. Not the money, not the research, not the spreadsheets, not even the courage, though all of those things mattered. The readiness to actually be here, in a place that is what it is rather than what you wished it were, with people who are who they are rather than who you expected them to be, living a life that keeps surprising you even after 7 years. 7 years. Gerald the gecko above the kitchen window. The mango season I now know by heart. The palenque on Tuesday mornings, and the boulevard on Thursday evenings, and the way this city sounds at 5:30 in the morning when I take my coffee to the terrace and the day begins without me having to manage it. 7 years, and I am still surprised by it, still grateful for it, still, every single morning, glad I came. That is what I want for you, if you come. And it is what I promise is available if you arrive ready to find it.